It's raining.
Is it?
Oh, it is here.
Huh. I don't know if it is here. Maybe it is.
It's raining
It's been
somewhere.
raining.
Yeah, it's been raining. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Skeleton Crew Podcast, the show with no intro.
Hi.
I am your host, Almighty Stross or Stross. I'm, of course, here with El Guapo Sardo, who I'm mad at because after I got my haircut, he has decided to get an even shorter haircut. So,
I'm sorry. This is just a brutal game of one-upmanship now. Follicle-based one-upmanship.
fuck you. How dare you?
Oh, listen, you know what, man? I I just decided my favorite thing about today was so I finally went ahead and just got all my hair buzzed off. It's very nice. I'm very happy with the results. And my barber was very funny because he's like
uh-huh.
working through the initial length of my hair and he just like shaved off a big chunk right down the middle. And his boss is like walking by and at that moment he decides to go, "Oops."
uh, Yeah, no, I finally got my haircut. My hair had gotten down my back again for the first time in a while. Just,
Oh wow.
I mean, I hadn't had my haircut in like 5 or 6 months. Actually, it might be longer than that. No, I got it in September. Yeah, so about 6 months.
It is quite impressive.
I mean, I don't get my haircut too often. That's just how I rolls.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Well,
that's how I want to start today. Is that Sardo has decided to, for some reason, one up me in hair length as a race to how little hair you can have, and the answer is way less than mine.
I just really, really want to be Shimano from the Yakuza series very
people
badly.
people don't get this, but I saw that your tweet of your haircut. I'm like, son of a bitch, and I just got my haircut. Fuck you. like but in that
Hate you, Stross.
yeah, but only in that like joke fashion of like, how dare you?
You, He-Man.
Curse you, He-Man! I told you it was.
But
I worked on
oh
this character.
boy, we have got some stuff to talk about
Yeah.
today
Yeah.
because we are watching an anime at your request. I mean, this was an idea you ran by me, and I'm like, that sounds great.
And I know
So
I know we mentioned it last time. I was like, oh, this is a thing that we're doing. Ha 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 ha. Ha. And all excited
look at that.
about. But we started watching Heike Story today.
Yes,
And
we watched the first 3 episodes.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say before we get started, this is not gonna be the next like 3 weeks of podcast episodes. I promise. It will be once we get to the end, which would be in about a month.
Yes.
Because actually, it would be 3 weeks. Because well, we run into a very interesting problem. The last, it's an 11 episode series, which is weird.
Mm-hmm.
Because anime is interesting is because it usually comes in one of several things, either usually 26 episodes to 13. This is 11, which is weird.
That is very unusual.
Yeah, it is unusual. But
But I
yeah,
mean, it's a different kind of anime too. Like it just feels very different from a lot of the other things that I've seen in a good way.
hmm okay. So to explain what it is, Heike Story, as it's called in English, and I'm also going to call it that even for the Japanese version because, or else people are going to. I'm going to start talking about some old literature. It is an adaptation of the Heike Monogatari, which is basically the tale of the Heike in English. I have a copy
Hmm.
of it floating around here somewhere. I actually think it's in my
Very cool.
bag. Which is the story of the fall of the Taira clan, or Heike, because it can be written several ways. Don't ask why, I don't know, I'm not a linguist. Are you a linguist?
I am not a linguist.
Then you don't know either.
I don't know shit.
None of us know. We're sorry. But yeah,
But
it is
you might know Taira no Kiyomori, who was represented in Warriors Orochi as a big dude with horns. He is not that here.
no, he's not. He's closer to what he actually looked like, which is a older bald man wearing a robe all the time.
Nice robes too.
Oh
Like
yeah,
Kiyomori's stylish.
everyone's stylish in this. Everyone's got like hats, some nice clothes.
He sticks out though, because like his stuff has patterns on it.
Yeah, it's him and retired Emperor Go Shirakawa, who is the other bald guy in a robe in this series. I
The
know when
thing
this
about
was coming out, people complained about like, oh, how am I supposed to know the difference between these two bald men?
there is quite a bit of difference. I mean, you just have to. They're facially very different.
Yeah, they don't look the same. It's just that if I was to describe what they looked like, the phrase "bald guy in a robe" is kind of applies to both of them very heavily.
I would say Kiyomori's like the thick bald guy in a robe.
He's got more of the bulldog cheeks going on too.
He's a little thick.
He's a little bulldogish.
He's jowly like Winston Churchill.
That's not wrong. But yeah,
But so it's a tale of the fall of the Tyra, but it's also got a kind of a unique viewpoint character here.
yeah, because unlike say following any of the Tyra, personally, we follow a small girl named Biwa who has the ability to see into the future through her one eye.
She has homophobia in her eyes. One blue eye, one brown eye.
Not actually.
Heterochromia.
Yeah, she has heterochromia. But one of her eyes is this weird blue eye that can see into the future, and she knows that the Tyra's fate days are numbered, and there's nothing they can do about it.
Very, very sad because she's a small child and can do approximately fuck all about anything.
And she's very tiny too. We must mention that she is very small.
And very scrappy.
Yes, she
Yeah, she's fun.
she's a little feral.
I like Biwa. I always think that like feral small child characters are terrific.
Mm-hmm.
And she is great.
Mm-hmm. She's definitely extra feral because this is the end of the Heian period where everyone was like very important about ceremony and looking their best. Far cry from the days of from the future of Oda Nobunaga going around being like, "Ha! You suck."
Show up to my own father's funeral wearing a dick print kimono, which was something he did.
Yeah, far cry from those days. Instead, everyone here is all prim and proper, or trying to be prim and proper.
Very buttoned up for the most part.
I have a question for you, Sardo. How well do you know Heian era politics and ways of life?
I mean,
It's okay.
I'm not an expert on it.
I mean, neither am I. I've never said I was an expert.
I know very little.
Fair. One of the funny things about Heike Story is it is from 2021. It was released in the fall season. For those who don't know, anime is released in 4 seasons like everything else. You know, you have your winter season, which is like January to like March-ish. And then it's the spring season, which is like mid-March to like May. And then there's the summer season, which, you know, it's the summer. Then the fall season is the ending of the year into December.
Is the fall season of anime kind of like fuck you, it's January for like the American film season?
No, that's January.
Oh, okay. So fuck you, it's January is leaps cultures. That's
Yeah.
cool to know.
Yeah, well, it's the middle of winter, and usually, like, all. Because the thing is, with anime, because usually a lot of, like, stuff will start in, like late November at times and go through into January. It's not
Hmm.
like. As with most things, it's not like a solid thing. And unlike movies, which have, like, release schedules, TV shows that are shared once a week, like, if it's, like, 26 episodes, that's,
Right.
26 weeks. That's half a year.
That makes
And,
sense.
yeah, that's just for like 26 episode series. Like 13 weeks is a long amount of time. That's like a whole, like, that's like 2.5 months.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But,
But so this was released in fall.
yeah, this was released in the fall of 2021. I watched it
Yes.
coming out because I saw the preview for it and I'm
Hello.
like, this is exactly what's designed for me, only me, and like two people in outside of
Uh,
Japan. Yes.
you cut out there for a minute.
Oh yeah. Okay. Basically, what I was saying was this was released in 2021, and to the fanfare of me and four other people outside of Japan, and only four other people. It was one of those things where, like, I knew deep inside my heart it wasn't going to do great outside of Japan. Because it is about samurai, but not the ones most people know.
It's not the fun, glamorous samurai that everybody's familiar with. It's like this is no Kita Soji. What the fuck?
No, it's sort of like there's no Oda Nobunaga, there's no Kenshin, there's no Shinken Takeda, there's no Shinsen Gumi or whatever. This is like, yes, Tara no Kiyomori is here. Everybody loves his son Shigemori, who exists. I I'm trying to dance around spoilers for Sardo here because it's hard.
I appreciate it. Though I will say though, so far Shigemori in this, I like him. I
Yeah,
like
no,
him. He's a
no,
cool dude.
he's
He's he
so
he can also see the future.
yeah. Well, sort of. He can see the dead.
Hmm.
His darker eye sees the spirits of the dead. So he's always kind of like. He was known as the Lantern Lord because he liked collecting lanterns. So it was adapted into the idea that he can see the dead. So now he's kind of spooked up by the dark. Which, that's
It's
fair.
understandable.
Yeah, if I saw the dead, I'd be like, oh, lights on forever.
And a bit of a suck ass thing to have to deal with you when you are a warrior of all
Yeah,
things.
it's like, I already have to deal in death on purpose. So, a little bit of backstory to this show. This was by Naoko Yamada, who is very well known if you're very into Kyoto Animation or KyoAni Productions. Her most famous work is the movie adaptation of A Silent Voice, which I saw. I thought it was fine.
I also saw it. The not my cup of tea, very well executed.
No,
It was good for what it was.
well, the problem I've always had with a lot of KyoAni stuff is that it's very technically well
Oh,
made. But yeah, no, what I was saying was KyoAni productions are stuff that I find very technically brilliant, but very not for me. If
there's somebody else's thing.
Well, the problem is their stuff is very cutesy. Like, here are some of the stuff that Yamada had been a key part of. She was a director and key animator for 14 episodes of K-On!, an animator on Nichijou. Uh,
What?
let's see. Worked on Sound Euphoriums 1 and 2.
Oh yeah, the lesbian marching band one.
Yeah. And let's see, they don't. Okay, so let's see. She did the K-On! Movie, the Tamako Love Story or movie. Now, I've never been a big fan of a lot of KONA stuff because a lot of it is very cutesy.
Yeah,
And
it's not what I go for.
no, it's not. And you can tell by our thumbnails and the fact that I've approved every single thumbnail outright. There has never been a. I just kind of let Sardo do them, by the way. I don't really. They are
I
whatever.
have free reign.
It is very much free reign. I was gonna say yes to all of them anyways, but so far, like, you can kind of tell aesthetically what we're all about here.
I mean, our avatars are two skeletons.
Yeah, but not cutesy skeletons. A very tired skeleton and a very flamboyant skeleton.
Yes.
But
So
it is, I think both of us can absolutely state that Kyoto Animation's work is not stuff we usually go out of our way to watch.
yeah, I think I watched like a couple episodes of K-On! I'm like, oh, that's cute, that's nice, and then I went and did something else.
Like, I
It's
remember. Gone.
no, I was done.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. It was just. I always felt that what made it hard for me to like a lot of like the stuff out of Kyoto Animation is that it's very polished, but in that like everything's kind of cute. Like there's a house style to the way they do things for the most part.
Yeah, it's very gift wrapped. It's very like it's everything is very palatable. And
And
that's not a bad thing.
it's very cute. It's very like smooth. All the girls are adorable. All the guys are some kind of hot, traditionally speaking.
It's just it's all very acceptable.
And it's a very highly polished work.
I'll put it this way. I hate to use the term, but KyoAni makes anime for normies.
Kinda. I would say it
It-
makes it for people who really. If you're a Moe fan, it is like the king. They're the kings and
Yeah.
queens of making stuff for people who like cute girls doing cute things or kind of gay boys doing swimming. Free must be protected. That level of man
I'm gonna say
service, even if you don't like it, it's the principle of things.
I agree with the principle as somebody who was on Tumblr when Free was at its peak of popularity. That was a dark time to be alive.
But I understand for you, it's like the worst type of thing. It's a bunch of pretty boys who are just vaguely muscular, running around doing swimming things. But in the terms of what
Hey,
it,
pretty boys.
I know you don't hate them, but they're not your thing.
They're not.
But as we put it, in terms of what it meant towards like the wider anime oeuvre, it was important. God, speaking of which, you know they also did Haruhi Suzumiya. Speaking of things that no one ever talks about anymore,
Yeah.
have you heard that thing about Kyoto Animation where it's like none of their shows have ever withstood this test of time outside of like Free and like Dragon Maid, which is like the weirdest combination of two shows you could ever imagine.
It's it, it's kind of funny.
It is
It's
kind of funny.
interesting.
But this was made after Yamada left Kyoto Animation and was done with Science Sailor, which is a relatively new studio who before that really got popular with Keep Your Hands Off of Isaacin.
Oh, very, very good. You should watch that if you haven't
Yeah.
or read it. It's very good. So
Yeah.
that nice, nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And that was founded by Masaki Yusei and Enoyoung Choi. I'm not super familiar with everybody, but they'd worked on other stuff over the years. And they do like this was so Heike Story was sort of Yamada's return after a 2-year hiatus. from doing work. I'm not going to go any further because I have information for you for later, and you're going to hate me for this.
Oh boy.
I'm going to make that ending way more painful. It's going to hurt.
Bring it on.
You're the only person who's like, oh, it's going to hurt, and you're like, give it to me. I want to bleed.
Make me cry.
It will. Because this is not because Heike Story was a net animation, and it starts rough. Like, the first episode, before we even hit the opening sequence, Biwa's father is killed. Like,
hello, would you like to see some horrible parent death to start off your meal?
It was the start of both of our meals, I believe. I made my dinner late by accident.
I had mine before I got on here, but that was, I mean, even when you see it coming, it was gnarly.
Yeah. Well, what's really interesting about it is that the first 3 episodes are basically Biwa getting to know the sort of the Taira mainstays, Shigemori's sons, specifically. God, I don't. Hold on, I need to make sure. I'm gonna have to look up some names. You know, I'm just gonna call him son. His 3 sons. Kiyotsune is the middle one. Kumamori, I believe, is the older one. Oh man, I should have opened up. My first and biggest mistake was not remembering that. Oh right, all these people have names, and there's so many of them.
Yeah, but Shigemori's got 3 sons, and they all kind of befriend Biwa, and it's interesting seeing kind of the relationships they develop. She definitely does not get along with the middle son, and they have kind of a funny back and forth.
We should note that it's not like, oh, they hate each other. It's more like the 2 middle siblings that, like, always fight with each other.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of those situations where it's not a case of, oh, these people hate each other. It's more of a case of these 2 are like a cat and a dog siblings.
Yeah.
So they're always like, eh.
Bullies you, but in a friendship kind of way.
Yeah, it's like it's the constant back and forth between the 2 of them. But with that in mind, the second episode is specifically Biwa meets a very key person in this story, which is Tokoko, who is the sister to Shigemori and Kiyomori's oldest daughter, unmarried at the start.
Mm-hmm.
Before she is married to the emperor at the time. Which one is that? There's a lot of emperors of Japan, people. Like, more than you think.
It's like, why do y'all go through emperors so quickly? And then you remember that there's, like, wars going on all the time when this is happening. It's like, oh, yeah, that's why.
The best way I put it is, it's one of those things, yeah, there she is. Takakura, specifically, is the emperor, the 80th emperor of Japan.
Okay.
But so basically she gets married to him, and that comes up a bit in the first 3 episodes. Basically, the first 3 episodes is set up of like, here's where we are, the Taira at their high point, and then towards the end of of episode 3, the retired emperor Go Shirakawa is like, I'm getting sick of these motherfuckers. What if we called the Genji to get rid of them?
Yes.
There really is a guy in this meeting who's like, but what if we did this? And you're just, and the Genji don't show up much in this. I'm just going to say that now, because it's not really about them. They do show up quite a bit. But the specific one that they talk about is Yoritomo, who,
Hmm.
if you're an expert on Japanese history, you know that's the first shogun of Japan. So, uh-oh.
I remembered it right. I'm like, oh shit, it's that guy.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this guy's important. No, this is not good. For the
Yeah,
Tyra specifically.
if you know like anything at all about Japanese history, there's going to be a lot of oh shit, it's that guy when you watch this.
Yeah, but specifically if you are an expert of late Heian, early Kamakura era anything, because
Probably a lot of those in our audience, I'm sure.
well, if
Lots of those
as
experts.
we have 2 subscribers to the podcast channel and I'm one of them, so therefore 50% of our audience knows who that is.
I was right.
I don't know who the other subscriber is, but hi, thank you for being our subscriber.
Thank you for subscribing.
You can like, comment, or subscribe. We're not trying to be famous. If we become famous, it's by accident.
Just doing this for fun.
Yeah. But that was the first episode. Those were the first few episodes. So I'm gonna ask you, Sardo. First things first. What did you think so far?
Absolutely beautiful. Like this is a gorgeous looking anime. They're just the shot composition and the general style, and it's good. It's good soup.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know, like it's kind of understated in a way that really magnifies things because like there is for an anime that is about like a particularly tumultuous period of time, there's not a ton of like actual violence, and there's like only a few really violent moments, and a lot of the stuff doesn't even happen on camera,
Yeah, and that's sort of a big
and it's
thing.
brutal.
It's brutal. Like man gets beheaded at the end of episode 3, and you see none of it. It's just shown via a flower being cut into water.
Yeah, like
Because,
it's all an insinuation.
yeah, which is just really a statement of like how well it's directed. Because it's like you don't need to see a beheading.
It's like the emotions here are so good. I wish I could find a more intelligent way to verbalize it, but they do emotion real good. It's just I don't know. Everything
Emotion
connects.
good.
But
Penis
you know what I mean?
is evil. Today in Zardos references. But
It connects though. Everything like hits where it's supposed to, I feel like.
yeah, no, what I really liked about it when I was watching it was sort of I was curious because this is like it was the first time Yamada was working outside of KO Annie's sort of house style of everyone's very cute, everything's very like polished, so there's a bit more grit to it. And the way I always describe how it's done is a friend of mine, Caitlin, who does like much larger reviews than us. We get like 3 views. People comment on her things. We're not famous. Oops. But she never liked Yamada's work, and then she saw this like, I get it now. And it makes sense because like just the first few shots of the start of the show is just the Tyra's butterfly symbol. I forgot what kind of butterfly it is. Let me look it up real quick. But it's a very specific kind of butterfly. And it's just this very hazy shot of just the butterfly. The opening itself is filled with a bunch of really cool shots too.
Yeah.
And it's like the thing is that the series I do wonder what this series is like, especially for you, Sardo, because I went in this kind of like a Japanese person might have, where I kind of know who all these people are. So I'm like, yes, this guy and this man and this person. I know who all these people are, and I know how this story ends. But for you, like, going into
A lot of this
Yeah, no, go for
It's
it.
still, yeah, it's still not. I don't know how a lot of, I don't know a lot of the fates of these characters. It's like I have a rough idea of what's going on, but I I don't, for one thing, I find myself really giving a shit about everybody
Yeah, no.
and feeling very upset because I know things are going to go bad for them.
Yeah. Well, I think what makes this interesting is that instead of like showing these people as badass warriors, because these are samurai clans. These are like the
Yes.
OG samurai clans, by the way, that we're
Hmm.
talking about. Instead, it's we see them in sort of their more day to day lives. Like
And yeah, go ahead.
we see them sort of like, oh, this like Shigemori's eldest son loves to dance. He's not really much of a warrior. He much rather just be like he'd rather be dancing.
But father, I don't want to fight. I want to dance.
And you're very good at it, son. But sadly, we're stuck in horrible times.
Great. Now go dance with a sword and kill someone. There you go.
But yeah, it's this idea that you never like the biggest bit of action is a bunch of warrior monks showed up, and that scene is like what, a minute tops.
Yeah, if that. And something else too is that it's like on the occasion you do get to see battle. It's not glorious, it's not exciting. It's, yeah, for one thing, it's confusing and kind of feels like it'd be a monotonous slog, and it's like it's a big, scary, monotonous slog, and I think that's good. I
Oh
think that's a
no.
good thing.
Yeah, no, and there will be more battle scenes later as the Genpei War actually like starts in earnest.
Right.
So we're sort of still in the setup phase of what comes to order. Hold on, I'm just gonna see what our next episodes are. Yeah, we're not getting into when shit hits the fan until episode 7. Like,
Mm.
we're still in rising tension,
Yeah.
and it like I'm just seeing this from I'm just looking at the episodes right now, and like episode 4, episode 5, episode 6, 7. It's like it's around episode like 7 and 8 is when things start really getting bad.
To know.
And I can't wait until we get towards like the second half. We'll probably having an update probably somewhere after. I don't know. We'll talk about it more like next episode. It'll be sort of like our second half topic, I would say.
Yeah.
And but it's sort of like right now it's like you can already tell time has passed because like Shigemori's kids are growing older. Biwa stays tiny because Biwa is cursed to be a fucking munchkin the rest of her life.
She's a gremlin.
She's just a little gremlin. But the whole thing is it's a lot of this series is sort of I remember I showed you the trailer, right?
And the trailer was lovely.
But it's a lot of people saying I'm sorry to each other, and it's just like, yeah, you can feel why the sorries are coming because bad things are about to happen, and the thing is, it's not for those who don't know what's happening. It's established by Biwa herself that the Tyra's fate is irreversible. They are doomed. But it's sort of how they're doomed is the question. Like, what is going on? What is about to happen?
We just don't know.
Well, I do.
You do, but
I very
you know what
do.
I mean.
I extremely know what's about to happen. Not only have I seen the show before, I knew going in. But
Well,
like,
not all of us are you, Stross.
yeah. But my favorite thing is, I wonder if you've noticed this, but did you notice how Tokiko as a character is I guess the best way I could describe it is you saw the Hobbit movies, right? Or at least one of them.
Yeah, of course.
And how people were joking, like, notice how Feely, Keely, and Thorn Oakenshield are all, like, the hot ones?
Uh-huh.
Like, as a way for you to, like, Oh yeah, they're the pretty ones. I like them.
Of course. Because
Be-
it's like, well, if a character is attractive, that means they're good.
well, yeah, I mean we can say that, but it's not that like people here are ugly. It's just that Heian era beauty standards for women were very different from our own.
Yeah.
Very pale faces, blackened teeth, hair that goes all the way to the ground. Eyebrow the dot based eyebrows you see in a lot of like
Little circles.
yeah the eyebrow circles that were shaved off eyebrows and put above your onto your forehead to make them even higher because Heian era beauty standards are kind of weird.
I mean, beauty standards in general are just kind of strange when you think about it.
They are, and you know things go in and out of vogue all the time. But it's like I don't think blackened teeth are coming back.
Oh, just you wait.
Well, you're gonna try to bring them back yourself.
Damn right I am.
But
Yeah,
the joke here is Tokuko looks more modern day pretty to like
yeah.
instantly get you, and it makes sense that you would use this because you have 11 episodes to work with and you need to make people endeared to her very quickly, which they
Yeah,
do.
She's like, she's very conventionally cute, and she's very sweet. She's
Yeah.
very sweet.
But we also like one of the things that's very interesting is we get a lot of like scenes with just women talking.
That was cool. I did notice that. I did like that.
Like there's a sequence with Tokuko and Biwa where Tokuko is just kind of complaining about like I'm about to get married because my little sister got married when she was 9 because this is you know late antiquity, early middle ages politics. Where if you're
Right.
important, you were married at like 10 to another 10-year-old or someone way older, depending on the situation. And it's like, oh,
Anyway,
yeah,
pretty shitty state of affairs all around.
yeah. And like her sister was a widow at the age of 11, and that's like, wow.
A widow and a stepmom.
Yeah, widow and a stepmom by the age of 11. That's whoops. But all of her husband's land now belong to her, and therefore belong to the Tyra. Go Tyra. Yay!
Yeah, I'm sure nothing bad's gonna happen to them.
Yep. Now, actually, you do know of one Tyra clan family member, though, very important one.
Hmm.
We've mentioned him already.
Kiyomori?
No, one Oda Nobunaga.
Oh, that's right.
That's
That's right. How could I forget? Our dude, our guy.
Our man. But the whole point is that when it comes to this whole Tyra thing is that after the Heiji Rebellion and the Hogan Rebellion, they took over the Kyoto government, or well, what was known as Heian-kyo at the time, hence the Heian period. How do we name these things? Well, what was the capital? Got it.
Here we go. Very easy.
Very easy naming convention. But what happened was, is that right now we have Kiyomori is slowly trying to make sure that the Tyra are set for life. And while he's like actually an amused grandfather most of the time, there are moments where you're like, oh, right, you will kill a bitch immediately.
And this Kiyomori does a very good job of like, that he is very much kind of a jolly old man, but he's all the scarier for it.
Well, I think it's because he already won.
Yeah, he's comfortable.
Yeah, because like the thing that makes him more intimidating is that you realize like very early on, because there's a sequence between him where Biwa kind of tells him off a little bit, and then comes in, and he looks at her and just kind of holds her face. It's like, amusing. And that's when you realize oh, this man absolutely has killed someone with his bare hands if he had to. Like,
Yeah.
he might be retired, but he is a retired samurai through and through, and he's not above getting someone killed if it means success.
Yeah, there's nothing retired about his mindset.
No, he's retired in the sense that he, as clan patriarch, has one goal and one goal in mind, and that is the continued control of the government and court via the Taira at all costs. Like, anytime someone, like, there's a sequence where Shigemori's second son accidentally pissed off a nobleman, and the nobleman had him beat up. Very badly, by the way. Like, way more than he deserved.
Like an 8-year-old man.
Yeah, like, this is just an 8-year-old kid who was just trying to get home because he wanted to impress his grandfather. Like, totally unnecessary amount of mean-spiritedness. We do learn later on that, like, oh, right, he's the brother to the lady Kiyomori's youngest daughter married.
Mm-hmm.
So he's, like, mad about losing a lot of land. But it's one of those things where it's just like, oh, you're a dick. And then Kiyomori's like, I'm gonna have him horribly beaten up. You don't cross my family.
Fuck no.
No one does.
Family.
We always return to that one.
I'm sorry.
No, I always love referencing that bit. But the thing is, I think what I really like about this show, though, is just... I remember when I first watching it and just watching the shots, I'm just like, fuck, I wish I was still making films because I want to steal some of these.
It's very inspiring to watch because everything is so artfully put together, and there's like at least a handful of shots every episode that I just go, damn.
Yeah, no, it's a very, like, one of the problems with TV animation is that even with this being a net animated series, so, it was released online, so it was less restricted, I guess would be the word. Not that you couldn't show this on TV. You could show this on TV, no problem. And it would not run... The only bad things about it would be stuff that, like... you can't really be mad about it. It actually happened. Like, oh, the 9-year-old got married to, like, a 40-year-old man. Well, I can't be pissed off. It's in the record.
It is history, and it sucks, but it's real.
Yeah, this is a thing that definitely happened. But it's more of a case of people... Like, you could show this on TV, no issue.
Yeah.
There's no ejectable content. Like, the worst thing that happened so far that is shown is Biwa barfing over the side of a boat. Like, that's the most explicit thing we saw. Like, we saw some blood splatter, but not a lot.
Yeah, there's very minimal blood or anything in this.
So far, anyway. A war is coming.
Yeah. Yet.
Yet. But it's one of those series where it's just like, most of the violence from my memory of it doesn't even happen, like, directly on screen half the time, and it's very brief. Like, the battle sequences are intense, chaotic, and as you said, like, kind of grungy.
And I say this in a positive way because I think it's the intended effect. They're ugly. They're very ugly compared to the other scenes.
Well, like, we have one scene where Shigemori has to defend a gate from a bunch of angry warrior monks, because if there's one thing that has been plaguing members of the Taira family for hundreds of years, it's mysteriously warrior monks. Even Oda Nobunaga...
burning down their temples! That's why they're pissed off!
Even Nobunaga was like, these fucking monks! Always with the monks! That's not a joke.
Maybe if you stop setting fire to their... Maybe the monks had a reason to be pissed off. I don't know.
Well, it's not that personal important, but, like, this whole sequence lasts maybe about, like, at best, like, 45 seconds of arrows being shot at people. You don't even see anyone getting shot directly. You just see the top of a shrine get hit, and it's, like, the most
And I mean, Shigemori says at the beginning of the battle, don't hit the shrines. They're holy vessels.
It's bad if you piss off the Buddha.
And do you think that the archers that accidentally hit the shrine, they're like, shit, shit, shit. Oh, too late now.
It probably is like, oh, shit, the wind. Oh, no, oh, no.
And then there was just that one guy who was being a dick about it.
Now, that's the guy who was purposely aiming for the top of the shrine with the little, like, gold bird at top.
It's like, I'm gonna get the bird.
Yeah.
It's like, no, Steve, don't do that. God damn it.
Damn it, Steve Coon.
Steve Coon.
But yeah, no, it's like that's so far been the biggest like action sequence this entire series, so in like 3 episodes, and that one is just like, whoa. Like it's a moment.
Yeah.
Because then like fire rages out through like the Tyra quarter of the capital, and even Shigemori's estate gets set on fire. It's like, oh no. My sins have come back to bite me in the ass.
And that's something I wanted to mention that I thought was really interesting because, like, as opposed to, like, really, showing a lot of the battles and a lot of, like, the thrill of war, it's like, it shows a lot of the repercussions of war. It's like the stuff that comes back to bite you in the ass after the fighting is done.
Well, I mean, to really,
like that.
Really to put this in perspective, this whole sequence feels like just that. Like, the whole series, it's like, the moment the Genji are brought up, you're starting to realize, like, oh, past decisions are about to really fuck people over, whether they wanted to or not.
When will you learn that your actions have consequences?
But it's also shown in, like, because a lot of, like, the action sequences in the show so far is really political maneuvering between a bunch of people being like, well, if we do this, then this will happen and we have to do this because people have to respect us. And if they don't, then they will not respect our power. It's a lot of that.
And it's interesting. Like, there is the greatest amount of tension and really adrenaline in those moments where it's a bunch of old guys talking.
Like, that's how you know you've done something right, when a bunch of old guys talking about getting rid of the Tyra clan is, like, the biggest shit that happens in this series so far. You're like... Because one of them, like, takes his drinking glass, cuts it through a jug, is like, no, we need to get rid of them. Not just beat them, they need to go.
We need to cut it off at the neck.
Yeah, we need them to be gone. Yeah, they helped us retain some power beforehand, but now they're taking over the government. I don't like when they take over the government.
Like, actually fuck these guys.
These guys suck. I don't like them. And Kiyomori's a dick. And his dumb bald head. And his stupid eyebrows. Not you, retired Emperor Goshirikara. I like your bald head and eyebrows.
No, your bald head looks very nice. Kiyomori's is all lumpy. You have a very nice skull shape.
But yeah, it's a lot of talking so far, and it's a lot of just sort of like what the time was like. Like there's this whole sequence with a bunch of like dancers where they used to be Kiyomori's favorite, but then they got older, and he's like, well, this one's prettier and also more my speed. But you're favorite of my wife, and I like my wife.
And can you imagine how awkward that would be? Where it's like, guy dumps you, and he gets with like your friend, but it's like, your friend's lonely. You should come over and say hi to her. Do it, or else I'll kill you. Because that's basically what's going on.
Yeah, and in fact, I think all of them retire immediately to be nuns. They're like, nope, done with this shit. Don't want to be part of it no more. We are through.
That was one of my favorite scenes too, because they looked so happy in their little convent or what have you, their little nun place, and I was just very happy for them. They looked very at peace.
To really like drive the poet home, Biwa, like, because I don't know if it's been mentioned already, but in this series, she mentions numerous times that, like, her father said, don't look too deep into the future type of shit. Like, you shouldn't know this stuff. It's bad.
Yeah.
You were gifted with the power of prophecy, and that usually ends badly for everything you know.
It'll fuck you up.
And it do be like that sometime.
Mm-hmm.
If there's anything mythology teaches you, is that having the power of prophecy is actually really shitty.
Yeah, I wouldn't want it.
I wouldn't want it.
I
No, I'm
and,
good.
and there is a little bit where like Biwa does look into the future deliberately. And like even when the results aren't bad, it's like, oh girl, don't do that.
Like when she does it with like all these now nuns, she's like, there's this small smile on her face, and she kind of runs home skipping, and you're like, ah, they're gonna be all right. They made the right choice. They're gonna be happy for the rest of their lives. But there's this one moment when she's talking to Tokiko for the first time, right before she goes away, and she gets like dirt in her eye, and she covers it and accidentally only sees through the prophecy eye, and she's like, oh no. Oh no.
And it's yeah.
And the
Like,
thing,
oh,
we should mention that these prophecy moments are like very vague. Like if you know what's gonna happen, you get what's gonna happen, but it's just like,
well, that's probably not good.
yeah. For you, you're like, I don't like where this is going. Shut it off.
It's like, oh, maybe go back. Maybe don't do that.
For you, this is like, oh no. For me, it's like, it's coming. As I stare off into the middle distance on that ledge, you know, the metaphorical ledge that you stand on when you want to be like serious about something bad is coming.
As one does.
Yeah, dramatically as the wind blows your hair back. And
Well, maybe it blows your hair back.
well, you don't have hair at the moment, you dick. Having to one up me. But that's sort of what the series is like so far. It's this sort of like, you know something bad is coming, but what exactly it is and what it entails is sort of the part that you don't know, if you don't already know.
It's the why of things that's still a mystery.
And especially because you're seeing all these like, not pastoral scenes, but sort of like almost slice of life, just people just living their lives, enjoying it.
It's just these, these historical figures being like regular people with families and hobbies, and the one son likes to dance, and
one of them likes to play the flute, and I'm gonna warn you, that flute part's gonna hurt you.
oh
Not
no.
yet. Understand that this series has a lot of, it's gonna hurt you. Also, we should probably take a time, because we haven't talked about it yet, the music of the show is very interesting.
It is.
Because you'd think, as a period piece, it would just be all traditional instrumentation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not.
Oh no. Oh, absolutely not.
Like, you hear, like, some guitars, some techno beats, and it kind of actually helps, in my opinion, because it's like, no, we don't need to just all be, like, the gakaku, like, classic court music for everything.
Yeah, I like that it's embellished with a little bit of something different.
I mean, I think that's always kind of what this series was for me. It's a little something different. Because, like, this came out at around the same time as Ranking of Kings, which was kind of the big, like, critical hit amongst, like, less normal anime people. At around the same time, like, that was like the critic's choice for the people who didn't watch Heike Story. And Heike Story is even more kind of out of left field. Also, we should mention, the theme song is really catchy.
It is very catchy.
I always said it. Did you ever listen to the Yeah Yeah Yeahs?
Oh, I love them.
Well, the theme song always reminds me of their best song, and what I would say is one of the best songs of the early 20th century, Maps.
You are so goddamn right.
It's the same vibe. It doesn't sound the same, and it's not a cover. It has it's a feel thing. It's a vibe thing.
No, I get what you're getting at, and you are correct. It definitely has that similar sort of sound.
It's that sort of like, not lo-fi, that's not the word, sort of low-key piece. Very
it's mellow.
kind of melancholic sounding.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I've seen the music video for the full song, and boy howdy is the drummer the most drummer looking woman you will ever meet.
I'm gonna have
I
to look at the actual music
I'll send
video.
it to you once we're done, but it's so funny. It's like, yeah, this girl's the drummer, all right. That or the bass player. Not with
It's like
it's the haircut, and you'll understand once you see it.
I know I will.
But yeah, it's sort of like the whole thing. It's a lot of it is sort of. It's also interesting because the opening itself is very different. Like it starts off with like, oh, this looks happy, and then it's like, I don't know.
And I think that it's like that's something else I really like about this so far is that it is so willing to kind of sit with those like nice moments and sit with kind of the pretty backgrounds and like just the people living their lives and that it's just willing to let that soak in because you know the bad shit's coming.
Well, I
And it's
think
like it's not in a great hurry to get to that immediately. It's like let's get to know everybody
yeah,
first so
no,
it hurts that
I
much
think the
more.
best way to really describe it is that it's willing to be slow.
Yes, it is.
And what we mean by that is that it is willing to be like slow paced, let despite being 11 episodes, not a lot has happened. Like at all.
And it knows how to take its time.
Mhm. And you feel it. You feel every second of it of being like you know something bad is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know it's not going to be a good time. And it's just like you're just kind of waiting for that other shoe to drop, and it is taking its sweet time to get there. Because looking at the episode list, I don't think really bad things really start to happen until like episode 7. We're still like we have to get halfway through the series before like I think the key Genji people show up. God, when one character shows up, you know that's when like uh-oh, this is gonna be the end, and it's not gonna be pretty.
The anime so far feels like it's, you're stuck on the train tracks. You can't get away. You see the train coming in the far distance and you know it'll come eventually and it will cut you in half.
Mm-hmm.
But God, it's such a beautiful day. Look at the flowers, it's everything is so nice. You might as well enjoy it now before everything gets really, really terrible.
And it's also extremely well animated too for whatever budget it was on. Like maybe because it was only 11 episodes. Like they know it's knowing when to spend your budget is sort of a big part of the anime production pipeline. And this one's
And
like
everything
it just knows when to use it.
it's effective.
Yeah.
It's effective and it's fucking gorgeous.
The art direction, the art style, the
I love
animation.
the color palettes that they
Oh yeah.
use.
No,
Like
also we didn't even touch that. The colors are great.
I love the colors. Like everything everything feels very rich and warm and like just a little bit fever dreamy almost. It's just like the slightest bit unreal feeling.
Well, there's sort of like a lightness to it, sort of like
Yeah.
ethereal almost. I mean, part of that's because the shot selection will be like of like a thing happening that is metaphorical for what is actually happening.
But it's everything is like effective is just the word I would use for everything when it comes to this because
Yeah.
this was clearly made by people who knew their shit.
It's nice when you look at a thing and it's just very well crafted.
This I don't know anything about the creation of this series or anything, or how the people who made it felt about it, but just from the quality of everything and from the way it's made, this feels like it was a very loved show.
Oh,
Like,
I actually have an answer to this, and you're gonna hate me so much by the time I tell you the answer, because there is an answer to that statement. And
oh no.
I'm doing to you what happened to me, by the way, which was I got reminded of a very key fact
Which
about
is,
things. Do you want me to just tell you it? The problem is it's going to color a lot of the series in a very different
yes,
light if I
you know,
tell you.
it it is what it is. Just go ahead.
Okay, so do you remember why Yamada left KO Annie in 2019?
I
If you need a reminder, that was the same year that KO Annie had the arson attack.
Jesus fucking Christ, that's right.
And that meant Yamada, who had worked for KO Annie for like, hold on, let me just do a double check on some dating here. She worked for KO Annie for about, now she worked from 2004 to 2020.
Oh man.
But for those who don't remember, rather shockingly, a man started a fire at the main studio at Kyoto Animation, which killed 36 people and wounded 33 others. These were
Yeah.
people Yamada had worked with for probably around 16 years, and it was very tragic for a variety of reasons. Mostly because of KO Animation was famous for hiring a lot of women,
Yeah.
and it was a very tragic moment, and
Uh,
it paints a lot of what this series in is in a very different light, and will make a lot more sense when you get to the end. But when you realize this is the first thing she worked on since then, you can kind of start telling that there might be a bit of extra love put into it by her alone.
yeah.
And it's, by
I
the way,
can
when I said this series is going to break your heart, once you get to the ending, you're going to realize is why I say it's going to break your heart. Because now you know the reason why. It's an
Yeah, that's
Yeah, it's a heavy thing to think about. But when I oh god, you want to know how I learned that or miraculously was reminded of that?
oh, what?
I was watching the ending because there's the ending clip on YouTube.
Hmm.
And I was just reminded that I'm like, "Oh god. This like it puts the whole ending into a completely different light." Well, sort of. Cuz the thing is the Heike Monogatari, the piece of work this is based on in the first place
Hmm.
is basically used as a Buddhist parable of this is what you do if you do bad things. Bad things
Right.
happen to you. And yeah, when you but it that's how it's originally used. It's it's the classic, it's like a Christian parable where it's like if you
My
do
favorite religion.
well, it's like any religious parable.
My favorite religious parable. Fuck around and find out.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's like that's how it's used. It's like the Tyra were did bad things that went against the Buddha's teachings, and they paid the ultimate price.
Hopefully.
But this will take it in a bit of a different direction,
Hmm.
and I'm going to warn you. I was already getting emotional when Biwa's dad dies, and I'm like, oh, this is only going to get worse for me from here. I'm like,
Yeah.
hi, downward spiral, my old friend, let's get going.
Yeah.
It's,
It's like there was a small part of me that, watching, some of these characters, build friendships and relationships, I'm just like thinking, oh, this is gonna suck. Because it's, you know,
but it's the kind of suck like, oh, I'm attached now.
yeah, it's gonna suck because it's gonna make me sad.
Yeah, it's like we said, it's the suck like it's coming and it's gonna depress you heavily.
Yeah. but I'm interested to see where the ending goes because that is interesting to know that they take a little bit of a different direction with it.
Well, it's more framing because, like, all things that happen are what happened. Or at least how it happens according to how they put it in history. Yeah. Or how it's written down in this one book. It also was a fun fact that this was also something that someone wanted to make. Can you guess who was the... It might have also been in tribute to another person as well.
Who was it?
Well, you know how Studio Ghibli had two very famous directors?
Yes.
And which is the one that's no longer alive? Isao Takahata.
Oh, man.
And this was one of the... He wanted to tell this story for ages, and he never got around to making it.
Do you think he'd like it if he saw this?
I absolutely think he would have.
Good.
I mean, if he's... It's just like... It's one of those things where it's just like, there's a lot of stuff to this that makes you go... I mean, Takahata's last major work was The Tale of Princess Kaguya, which makes sense. Like, when you put it like that, you're like, yeah, I can see why he would want to make this one specifically.
Oh, yeah. It's all coming together.
Yeah. And this is one of those things where it's... The very idea of these stories, of this story is that I'm curious to see how the ending hits you, because now I can't get through the ending without feeling of many kind of ways.
I can assure you, I will probably cry a little bit.
All right. So
I already get that feeling. It's like, this shit's gonna make me cry.
No, I think what it also helps that it makes this, like, this is a story where, like, the emotions hit. Like, from the get-go, like, Biwa's father dying is shocking, sudden, and you feel really bad about it the moment it happens. Would you say
like
that's fair?
You're what, like, yeah, like, you're like 30 seconds into it, and you're like,
no, she doesn't deserve this. She's just a child, and now she pays for saying, like, I don't like it when the secret police people go beat up people.
It's like fucking 6.
Or however old she is. It's hard to tell. She never gets any larger.
Yeah, she's a small baby-looking kind of person at the beginning.
Yeah. Like, you can tell, like, there is some, like, even later on, you can tell there's, like, some change in her, like, the way they draw her. Like, it looks less... Yeah. It looks less young, I think is the best way to put it.
Yeah. She's, like, she stays about the same size so far, but definitely, like, her features change, and, yeah.
Well, like, I'm just looking at some later, like, thumbnails for the episodes, and, like, her face gets a lot less round as it goes on. Like, she doesn't look much different, but you can tell.
Yeah, like, and I think it's kind of an interesting effect in that it's like, yes, she gets older, she changes with experience, but she also is kind of unaffected by time in the way that the others around her are.
Mm-hmm. But also what kind of makes it work is that, like, we cut to her later on. Like, clearly her in the future with white hair, and you're like, wow, this is really interesting.
That's her in the credits, right?
Yes.
I kind of figured, but
yeah,
it's like, okay, yeah. So some shit's gonna happen.
Yeah. There's a lot of, like, jumping. Every so often they break into parts from the, what's it called? The, parts of the actual, like, Heike Monogatari, which was usually sung off of a biwa. In fact, I could literally I've listened to a bunch of pieces of it.
And it sounds really fucking cool
Yeah.
here in the show.
Oh yeah. It's also really funny because the woman who plays Biwa, and we're watching in Japanese for those wondering. In English, she's played by Xanthe Hugh,
Oh.
who I know best as Haru from Persona 5, or Marianne from Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Oh.
Very cute sounding lady.
She is.
Yeah. Let's see. She. Interesting. I was just looking up her actress. She's also in Persona 5. Not as the same character, but that's just funny. Huh. But, she's been around a while, so.
Yeah.
Oh my god, she's tiny. She's listed at 4'9".
What is this, a person for ants?
Well, you probably know her most famous character. You want to take a hot guess what who I would consider it after that, now that I took one look at it?
I'm bad at these guessing games.
That's okay. There's a lot. It's the Dokes herself, Madoka.
Oh, well.
I like how you understood what I was talking about via the Dokes.
Oh, we like the Dokes.
We do. One of the most influential animes of the 2000s, the 2010s, and not necessarily for good reasons. Whoops.
Nope.
As with most very popular things, everyone copied it, and it wasn't a good thing.
There's only so many times you can go, what if magical girls, but it was dark and fucked up?
Yeah.
Without, like, the level of technical skill or beauty that Madoka had.
Yeah, or writing that Urobuchi brought to Madoka. She's also... she's also... Tsuyu from My Hero Academia.
Aww.
She's everyone's favorite frog.
Froppy.
Yeah, she's Froppy. Froppy.
Still,
I love that scene to the death. It's like everyone's going through the names and they're like, oh, finally someone who's normal. Thank God. But yeah, no, so far, I knew you were going to like it because you're like me and you like weird artsy shit.
Yes.
And this is a very artsy thing.
It is, very much so.
And this will now be taking over The Hell You Watching as a segment, and we'll probably devote another episode to the ending. Oh, I'm going to apologize now, as that will hurt you.
I'm planning on it.
Yay! Well, folks,
Bring it
thank
on.
you all for coming. This was our kind of interestingly, first 3 episode thoughts of something that I wanted to share, and we're going to be doing this for other stuff, too. I don't know what's going to happen after this, though. I have a lot of things I want to watch with other people that no one else wants to watch, and Sardo's the only person I know who probably will do it.
Listen, if you don't have anybody else to watch him with, I'll watch.
Oh, God.
Always.
I'm sorry when I have to show you a Getsu. I'm like, no, we're watching samurai movies from the 50s and not the ones that you're thinking of.
It's okay. I'll find some weird, obscure thing that I like that I'm going to make us watch, too.
Yeah.
So.
I want that. Just make sure... the problem with being my friend, everyone, is that eventually you learn that I went to film school, and therefore I watched a lot of, artsy stuff that, the average person doesn't watch.
Well, see, that's perfect then. That'll be great. I can actually show you some of my favorite weirdo shit, and you'll be able to actually assess it.
Well, no, as I always say, weirdo stuff is great because, I'm the type of person who owns Kurosawa's Dreams, which is his anthology work from, the late 80s, early 90s. When did that come out?
Yeah.
And my favorite one from that is The Tunnel, which is a very lovely and... Oh, yeah. Well, you want to know I know? I said late 80s, early 90s. It's from 90. Straight up 90. I'm like, oh, that'll do it. Here we go. It's not his best work, but I always have an appreciation for it because I like his colored work. Anyway, folks,
it's interesting.
It's interesting, and we're gonna keep up, I guess, the Stross and Sardo movie night for as long as we want. I like it.
I do too.
I'm good. Yeah, and we won't always be recording directly after it, so it won't always be fresh in our head. So this is like instant reaction, by the way.
Yeah, this is some real off the cuff shit.
Yeah, this is like we just watched the first 3 episodes, went straight into, like, we literally just straight up went to recording because we're like, oh, that would be fun. But anyway, folks, thank you all for coming. We once again would love to thank you for always listening to us. All, I don't know, 4 or 5 people who listen to this podcast.
We appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah. Hearing us ramble like insane people in a cave in backwoods.
I mean, if nothing else, maybe it's something nice to draw to for background sound.
Hey, I absolutely consider that a compliment.
You know, that's my big goal. So, some artists' background sound.
Yeah, like, I think it's great if someone says, I put you on in the background while I do other things. I'm like, that means you consider us worthy to at least multitask too.
Exactly.
Like, I do that for a bunch of things that I actually like. So,
Yeah.
I consider it a compliment. That means I'm not annoying enough to turn off.
I feel the same way.
Yeah. Anyway, folks, thank you all for listening to us. We love you all. Usually. Sometimes we're in a bad mood and we're like, I hate the world and it must
I love
perish.
you all always, especially you listening right now. That's right, you.
Yeah.
You're my favorite.
You can follow us on at Almighty Stross on Twitch and Twitter. For Sardo here, you can use Topsy Garlands for the Twitters and Uncle Death on the Twitch when they happen.
So, I've kind of figured out. So I'm probably going to be dropping Spanish class at the end of March because I have entirely too much shit going on right now, and I think that'll free up Wednesday. So probably around April I will get back to this.
Exciting, and then I'll be. That's when I'm going to force you to play 13 Sentinels. And watch you suffer the psychic damage as I sit there being like, yes!
What are friends for?
Exactly. Thank you, everyone. You have a good night now. And next week we're going to have a normal topic, and you'll still hear more about this because we're not going to always record on a Monday, but I don't know, I think I might record back on Fridays next week, probably.
Probably so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you're going to hear our thoughts on Heike Story filtered through time to actually think about them.
Get ready for it. Get hyped.
Yeah.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.